I'm a fan of fantasy, so I listen to Easy and Alan on their Just a Fantasy Fan podcast. Now here's Easy and Chris Allen.
And that means it's a Wednesday night at 10 o'clock, and welcome to a Fantasy Fan Sportscast. Just one of the many great shows on the Sportscrew Radio Network. And follow them, listen to all their podcasts on iTunes and Twitter at Sportscrew Radio. Thanks, Mr. Lou Landers and the Sportscrew people for having us. And that even includes the fact that I'm the best fantasy guy we got, because I'm obviously winning our league. You know, I'm in the Super Bowl, whooped everybody. So, you know, thanks for letting them be a part of us is what I should be doing. So, Mr. Chris Allen, welcome.
What's going on?
And I didn't realize till a little bit ago, this is it for us. Because next Wednesday will be Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
The Wednesday after that will be New Year's Day.
That is true.
So this is pretty much our swan song for the fantasy thing, but it should be anyway. This is week 16. This is in most cases, Super Bowl week.
Right. Yeah.
We've had that discussion. Are you a Super Bowl or are you a championship guy? I always say Super Bowl, and other people say I'm wrong. It's just a championship.
I'm more of a championship guy because, I mean, really,
I know that.
Well, at least for me, because I don't normally play in leagues that have like conferences, divisions, and all that set up. It really, I mean, because a lot of fantasy leagues, they don't do much of that anymore.
Well, we don't either, but I just call it the Super Bowl. I don't know why. It's,
okay.
I don't know. It's our championship week, Super Bowl week. Call it what you want, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, you win your league, you win your league. Who cares what it's called?
Oh, I do. I care to call it the damn Super Bowl so I can call myself a Super Bowl champion.
Stop it. If we called it the championship game, you'd be like, I just won the championship game. It doesn't matter.
Oh, well, I would do that too. I'm not arguing.
That's what I'm saying.
But, I mean, I know you gave it away that last week. You did not want the pressure of playing me. I know.
No, I didn't want to hear you whine.
Whine? I'm not a gloater. You know that.
Stop it.
I would have said nothing. I'd have just acted like it never happened.
Stop it. You would have been whining. You were whining after I beat you the first time. You were complaining.
That was just a setup. So you would.
Oh, okay. Got you.
We got to this point. I had the whole season picked out, you know, the whole plan.
And so you saw this all coming.
Right.
And it was just, you were just, you know, playing, you were sandbagging on me.
Right. Right. And now I'm just playing some brown sock, brown shirt, brown truck driving UPS driver
with a record-breaking quarterback.
Right, and he's a rookie.
Well, I mean, hey, anybody's got a shot to win the title.
And he was pretty excited to win in that night because you were in the lead the whole game. He had Breeze. Breeze had to have Breeze needed a record-breaking game for him.
And he did. He did exactly that. I can't fault him at all, man. Go ahead. All right.
So are you in any Super Bowls this weekend?
Yeah, I've got four or five that I'll be competing in this weekend of my own, and then I have two clients that will also be in the finals for their respective.
Like a pretty good year for you, and then you just missed out on the Sportscrew Radio Network League.
Yeah, it's been a pretty good year. Yeah,
I had 3 money leagues, made it to 3 semifinals, and I'm in 2 Super Bowls.
That's a good year.
The League of Anarchy, I scored 209.7 and got beat by someone who scored 247. So it's the nasty thing is, and the other 2 people in the semifinals, neither got out of the 160s. So our bracket, 2 scores over 200, and the other side of the bracket, 2 scores under 166. I think one had 166 and the other one had like 161. It's like,
gotcha.
So I scored, I'd beat anybody but the guy who beat me. Have you ever played in any leagues where and I never heard of this before until the other day, where they just play the playoffs by points. So the first, you have 8 people, and week 1, the top 4 scoring teams move on to the semifinals.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then the top 2 scoring points in the semifinals go to the Super Bowl.
Right. Yeah. There's no divisions.
You're not playing head to head. You're just
no head to head, no nothing. Those are, I want to say, that's the way that some like roto leagues, like the traditional way of playing fantasy football. Right. I mean, some of those leagues were set up that way where it's not head to head. You're just looking at points.
Head to head in the regular season, but then when the playoffs came, they went strictly
points. Yeah.
So in that case, me and the guy who played in the semifinals would be playing again in the Super Bowl, I guess, but then again, you're not playing against anyone. You're playing against 4 other people, technically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I've never played that. So, I don't know. That was, MathQuest asked this yesterday. Actually, he's changed it a little bit. He needs 1 receiver, AJ Brown, Lockett, or Parker, and it's a standard scoring. So obviously, to me, touchdowns are important. Mm-hmm. I liked Lockett and Parker last night when he asked the question, just because Parker has a good matchup. It's against the Bengals. Mm-hmm. And then Lockett also had a good matchup.
Arizona.
Lockett's kind of on fire right now. So to me, the key is who has a better shot at scoring. My concern was, I think I like Lockett better, but he's been less consistent lately than Parker. And in a Super Bowl week, I want consistency a little more over upside. But what do you think?
I would say for me, I'll probably rank them in the opposite order, the way that he has them listed. I would go Devontae Parker, Tyler Lockett, and then AJ Brown. My reason for not liking AJ Brown as much, I mean, despite like what he's been able to do over the past, it's probably been about a month or so, is mostly based off of, I mean, he's gotten the volume. He got the volume last week. I'll give him that. The deep targets, the deep balls were also there to help with some of his yardage. But this week, and also last week, because the Texans and Titans were in much more of a back and forth matchup, that kind of forced Ryan Tannehill to pass a bit more. I think he had his most passing attempts since he took over as a starter. So I think probably the same thing will happen this weekend against the Saints, but his matchup becomes, I guess, appreciably worse. I mean, even if he does get who is it? PJ Williams, I think, is right, their normal slot corner, for the Saints. But now, since the Saints actually acquired Janoris Jenkins from the Giants, it's possible that they wind up shifting Jenkins into the slot as well in order to help covering. And Jenkins, I think, is an objectively better corner, despite playing for a worse unit. But Jenkins is actually a pretty decent corner. So I don't like AJ Brown as much. And also, I mean, because from a defensive line, offensive line matchup between the Saints and the Titans. I mean, Titans have one of the worst pass blocking units in the league. Saints are they have to be at least in the top 10 in terms of pressure rate. So that has to limit. That has to at least make you think that the Titans are going to be limited offensively. And we'll see what Derrick Henry is able to do. I know he practiced today, but he's been limited. That he was seen wearing a wrap in order to help nurse that hamstring injury. So I mean, and with Lockett, I mean, it's very much what you just said. I mean, it's the targets, and we're glad that they came back. But even after the game, I mean, he's still saying he's still getting over being sick.
Right.
So I mean, it's hard, and also that shin bruise that he sustained, I would say about 3-4 weeks ago. I think it was against San Francisco or Arizona when they played him the first time. One of the two. I mean, that's still ailing him. So it looked great last week, but I'm still comfortable going against it, because I would assume that Patrick Peterson is probably going to be playing a lot against DK Metcalf because he's one of their larger wide receivers. So that would give Tyler Lockett, I guess, one of the better matchups. But then I would still have to put Devontae Parker up front because one from the opportunity he's seeing, and also because of the matchup. The only thing I would say is that Cincinnati, they haven't allowed a wide receiver one performance. It's probably been in about a month or so. And I was taking a look at this when I was writing up my streaming column the past like four for four that dropped yesterday. Is that, I mean, Cincinnati, for all their faults, they actually haven't been like this like marquee matchup for opposing quarterbacks. But at the same time, they haven't really faced all too many people, right? I mean, like this week it was Tom Brady, and Tom Brady didn't even really look like, Tom Brady of old. I mean,
but he didn't have to either.
Right. But I mean, but Julian Edelman, I mean, he was almost, I mean, people relying on Julian Edelman in week 15, they got, bupkis.
But he was banged up. I mean, I get all that. And the defense scored. They just kind of, I agree. The Bengals have been better defense than I think people have given them credit for over the last 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah, because it was before that, it was Sam Darnold and the Jets. And like Darnold didn't do all that great. I don't even think they were passing touchdown in that game. Then it was the combination of Mason Rudolph and Devlin Hodges against the Steelers, and we both know that those quarterbacks aren't all too great. Right. So it's been like these run-of-the-mill, like average to below average quarterbacks that they face. So at least from a defensive matchup, that might prop up what folks are thinking about the Bengals. But again, it's still the Bengals, so I still would think that Devontae Parker has at least the best shot of any of those three in order to wind up.
In most leagues, he's averaging roughly 15 points in a PPR now. This is a standard. I'm sure that goes down to probably 10. I don't. How many touchdowns does he have on the season? I was just looking. TD.
Devontae Parker.
He doesn't have a touchdown.
Devontae Parker.
That's what I'm looking at. Devontae.
No, he scored 4 in the past 3 weeks.
Why is it? Why is it not showing up on my thing?
I don't know.
Receiving
Devontae Parker had 2 last week, and they also had 2 against Philadelphia.
Never mind. Rushing. I was on rushing. Got 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. So he has 9 touchdowns. So,
and I think since I think Fitzpatrick took over in like week 7, so I would say like 7 of his 9 touchdowns Came with Fitzpatrick under center.
Right. And the game's on the road. I mean the game's
they're home.
It's on the road for the Bengals. So.
Right. So, I mean, less of a chance. I mean, unless we're looking at some rain or something like that down south, I mean, it's less of a chance of cold weather or any some of the nasty stuff that you would generally attribute with a bad weather game.
Now, he's also saying, which I was going to bring up, that Josh Jacobs has been ruled out already for Sunday. So obviously if you're playing him, and don't forget this week, we have Saturday games, no Thursday game. 3 Saturday for the first time. So
right.
2, this is 3. So obviously you got to set your lineup. So he's wanting to know, since he has to replace Jacobs, would you replace him with Drake or Mostert? And this is a standard scoring league. The key is Mostert went off 2 weeks ago. Drake went off this last week. So who do you trust more? I'll let you talk. The 49ers are playing.
49ers are playing the LA Rams.
Yeah, and that is a Saturday night game. Right,
and then the Cardinals are playing against the Seahawks. And at least from practice reports earlier today, it looked like a couple of the defenders for Seattle, I know at least Jadeveon Clowney was back to practicing, so it looks like he might be able to go. So that would be an immediate boost to the Seattle's defense. So I would probably play Mostert over Drake. I know Drake wound up. If I'm not mistaken, one of Drake's 4 touchdowns was just a bunny touchdown because there was a pass interference call on Christian Kirk in the end zone, and that gave him one of those. So I mean, 4 touchdowns is hard to repeat, and when one of them was based off of a DPI, it's even harder to repeat that type of action. So I would probably lean towards Mostert anyway.
But but what I liked about Drake, I know what you're saying about the touchdowns, but it also was his most carries all season. They gave him the ball 22 times. So
true, and Mostert had a similar workload though.
Well, no, but
I would say the 49ers offense is better than the Cardinals offense.
Okay, I'm just saying though, I do think they're going to use Drake more as a full. Would surprise me if they don't use him as their only running back, where a lot of people going into last week didn't play him because I had him on the bench in the league I advanced in. So because I wasn't sure he was going to not split carries. I was figuring, they're only going to give him 10 or 11, 12 carries again. And they gave him 22. If I'd have known that, I obviously would have put him in. So, if there's a chance he's going to get 18 to 24 carries, it's hard to beat that. So
that's true. And I would say
how healthy are the other running backs right now for the 49ers?
For the 49ers, well, Matt Breida was healthy, but he fumbled twice. So,
right?
Yeah, he got sent to the bench. And then Tevin Coleman, he's been in the doghouse for quite some time now. So I would say that Mostert has, a firm grip on the lead running back job. So I would say that his opportunity share should be just at the same level, if not more than Drake's. Because it looked like David Johnson for a little bit, he was starting to get into the mix there.
The week before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I don't know what's going on there either. So that's a tough one. But that was obviously the other big injury news is AJ Green's not going to play the next 2 weeks. I know if he's on your bench, you just can cut him now. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I don't
cut AJ Green.
Yeah, it's kind of it's even worse for us, right? Because we're all of, 10, 15 minutes from where his season essentially ended.
Yeah.
So
unwelcome stadium.
Yeah, that was unfortunately I wasn't even in the state. I think it was like at seeing family or something like that, like when it happened. But it's hard to, and I'm sure that the team will never come back here after that happened. But either way, yeah, it's just, season was over before it even began, man. And it's just, and now they're talking about whether they're going to franchise tag him, try and sign him to a long-term extension. He's 30 years old.
Bengals, especially if they're going with the young quarterback next year. I think you let him go. You got to.
Yeah. So what at this point? Yeah, I would have to agree. At this point, like, what are you really hoping to salvage? If you're going to go for Joe Burrow, and if you're going to try and completely reset this franchise and kind of take them, over at least Burrow's rookie contract, so that's at least 4 years. You really have to try and start fresh, and you got to let AJ walk and try and see if you can get any trade value for him.
No, but it's the Browns, or it's the Brown family.
Yeah.
So we have no clue what they're going to do.
Well, we'll see. We'll see if, depending on how this whole like Spygate 2 thing shakes out. We've seen a bunch of players from Cincinnati wind up on the Patriots roster. So with as many like wide receiver woes that the Patriots are having right now, if Tom Brady's going to come back for another season, there's no way they can enter the 2020 season with the receiving core that they have. And I think AJ Green could be, he could wind up being a Patriot. I know a lot of folks say whenever wide receivers leave their teams, they can wind up on the Patriots. But if they want somebody that could actually be a big-bodied, like, X receiver that can separate.
And AJ Green's gotten paid.
Yeah.
So he can go there and take a little less money.
Yeah. And for me personally, he's been one of my favorite players. Since he came into the league.
Oh, he's been fun if you're a Bengals fan, obviously.
I would say even if you're just a fan of football, because there's really no reason for a guy that size can be able to move the way that he moves. He's just an excellent route runner.
He is an old wide receiver.
He is an older wide receiver. Yeah, that's for sure. Because, he was playing, when he was at his peak, we were still watching guys like other big-bodied wide receivers. Julio Jones was very much in his heyday. Brandon Marshall was still playing well. So there was just these big guys. But, AJ Green was just different, man. He was just very much different in terms of, like, route running, able to separate. Run routes from both in the slot and also from outside.
Right.
He's just been impressive throughout his career.
Now, the other injury is Chris Godwin. Are we going to see Godwin play this week?
I doubt it, man. If you have a guy go down with a hamstring injury that has to be carted off the field and he hasn't even practiced on a limited basis by today. I know they already put Scotty Miller on IR, so their wide receiver core is dwindling, but even if Godwin plays, you can't start him. You did there's no way that you could wind up being starting him.
Perryman, he's the only wide receiver they have, right?
I mean, he's the only wide receiver, at least that we know of. I mean, now in terms of pass catchers, I mean, this could be the OJ Howard troll game of the century for him coming back and playing in Week 16. But I mean, that's
Well,
kind
they
of what
did
we're
throw
left
to
with.
him more last week, but he still didn't have a great week. So
Right. I mean, they were forced to throw to him, and he still winds up. I think he wound up in the tight end 1 ranks, but it doesn't really take much to wind up in the tight end 1 ranks. But either way,
that's true. You can
yeah,
be, to me, tight end 6 or better makes it a good week for you. Other than that, you just did average.
right.
So,
I mean,
Jameis Winston's not throwing right at the moment. He's on my team. Am I going to see Jameis Winston this week?
yeah. I mean, I would assume that he's just walking through and doing the same process that he followed last week in order to be ready for the game, and he wound up throwing 454 yards last week.
I'll have no problem starting him. Jordan Howard, are we going to see Jordan Howard again this year, or do they need him, or could you start him even if he is playing?
I don't think you could start him even if he is playing, because I think there's more to just the fact that, like, you can throw all of like the rookie narratives of like, oh, it's late season, fresh legs. I mean, he's younger, blah, 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 blah. But at least you could see like a demonstrable shift between the way that the Eagles called plays when Jordan Howard's on the field and when Miles Sanders is on the field, because at least, even though it wasn't that often, Miles Sanders can actually be used out of the backfield for passing. I know that's what they've kind of like used Boston Scott for, in order to play Darren Sproles' role. But Jordan Howard, they weren't throwing passes to him, so you knew what type of plays that they could run, like when Jordan Howard's on the field versus when Miles Sanders is on the field. So having those two backs being Sanders and Scott, that opens up the playbook to be much more dynamic than when it was Howard and Sanders. So I think either way, even if Howard comes back and they're in a must-win situation in order to like advance into the playoffs, because they're playing Dallas.
Right.
Even if Dak's shoulder is all banged up, I mean, they have to win this one. So I think the Sanders Scott combination is much more better for him.
Now, will we see Jordan Howard somewhere else next year? And if so, is he a viable fantasy running back if he goes certain places?
Sure, why not? I mean, have him. I mean, they're probably, I would say, the easiest situation I think of that would be viable for Jordan Howard. Send him to the Chargers. I would assume that the Chargers are going to get rid of Melvin Gordon at the end of this season. Austin Eckler has been great for them, so why not have Howard play the Gordon role, and then Eckler, continue to play the Eckler role, and then they still split it like 60-40.
Right, because the worry is still, can Eckler play every down of every game? And
I don't think so. I would still think you need like a 1 to 2 down banger in order to kind of set everything up, and then they could even put them both out on the field, and they've started doing that over the past couple of weeks in order to make them both viable fantasy options. So I think that, so for what Melvin Gordon's asking to get paid, let him walk. Sign Howard for like a third of that price tag, and then Howard basically inherits that workload, and then try and see if they can groom Austin Eckler into being an every down back if they think he can be that. Or either way, I mean, they just start kind of like cycling in some of these like 26, 27-year-old 1 to 2 down thumpers in order to keep Austin Eckler fresh.
What about Kamara? Is there an issue with Kamara? Is it just the game plan now that they don't need to use him like they had in the past? Are they just happy enough with Murray filling in that spot? What's going on there with the Saints?
I haven't seen at least an obvious shift in like Latavius Murray playing more, playing over him or whatever. I still think he's getting like a similar touch share, like albeit I think the entire running back, like that committee is seeing less of a touch share than before, because it's just been Drew Brees. And I think it's more of like Alvin Kamara's playing hurt more so than anything else. I mean, that high ankle sprain, even though he came back and I mean, it looks like he's able to play. I mean, he's just not the same. I mean, like Kamara used to be able to, on a foot race to the edge in order to get around the corner, like Kamara would beat a linebacker almost like 8 or 9 out of 10 times. And that's just not happening anymore. He's not able to get up to that speed.
Barkley proved this year, you don't get over in a couple of weeks.
No. And I think we're seeing that. I think we're seeing that down in New Orleans. I mean, Barkley didn't really look right probably until last week, I would say.
And
I mean, that's even to say, like, I don't even think Barkley's like all the way back, but at least for a time, he was able to do some of those like jump cuts. And for a guy of his size, because he's probably 20 pounds heavier or so than Kamara, I would probably say. Because I still think that I think Kamara is very much like he's still a talented guy, but I think he's playing through something. And so even though the season's about to end, I know New Orleans will probably have, their postseason run, and we'll see if Drew Brees is back. But either way, I still think he's somebody that you can consider probably towards the back end of the first round. If I'm thinking, like, if I'm projecting ADP for next season, I would probably take him there, early second, somewhere there.
Damian Williams returned to practice in full today. Is he going to be the Kansas City Chiefs' #1 running back this week? And can you play him in your Super Bowl?
I don't think so. I mean, I know the matchup. The matchup isn't great. I know Chicago, like as a whole, I mean, they've been so against running backs. I know that Aaron Jones he wound up playing like very well, but Aaron Jones is actually like a really good running back. But either way, I mean, I know Akeem Hicks, like he was playing through that elbow injury when he came back from IR, and I don't know if he's still likely to play or not because he was actually in and out of the lineup and actually like rolling around on the ground, I think, at one point during the game last week. So I couldn't feel comfortable doing it. I mean, nobody in that backfield like really looked like they were separating themselves. I mean, whether it was Thompson, whether it was Ware, whether it was McCoy, I mean, none of them really looked like they were.
That offense hasn't been ticking like it did last year.
But I mean, I guess we talk about touchdown regression and that being a thing, and I still think like while their team total as compared to last year is less, they're still at the top of the league or towards the top of the league in terms of like points scored per game. So I think that's fine, but it's just Patrick Mahomes is now, I think it's becoming more of a Patrick Mahomes, like the points are now being scored through the air versus, I mean, some of those points were actually being scored by points coming through the air to running backs. And we just haven't seen that as much this season.
Well, Damian Williams, or I'm just trying to get an idea where your line is. Adrian Peterson or Damian Williams?
To me, honestly, Adrian Peterson.
All right.
I honestly don't mind that matchup.
Kenyon Drake or Damian Williams? If you had to
Kenyon Drake.
Kenyon Drake.
Yeah.
All right. I'm just saying. So where would you put Williams in at? Tariq Cohen or Damian?
Tariq Cohen, to be quite honest with you.
Okay. I'm just trying to get an idea of where
I'd probably be like for Damian Williams, let's say high 20s. Or I guess we're talking about ranks, so it'd be low 20s, not high 20s.
Right. You're saying he's a top 24 running back, which means he's
I put him outside of that.
Okay. So
probably like 29, 30, somewhere around there.
Right. Just trying to get an idea of if that's
PPR, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, everything I'm in is PPR, so I
was just making sure since you mentioned but
then my point in standard, though, if anything in standard, McCoy hasn't shown anything on the goal line. So if they get down to the goal line, I think they're going to hand the ball to Damian Williams. The other guys are too small, so he does have a shot at getting a touchdown, maybe. I agree. I have him, and I don't have him in my. Actually, I think I have him on both teams. I'm in the Super Bowl, and I don't think I need him as of right now. So I don't plan on playing him, but I also didn't drop him. I actually was hoping he played last week so we could get an idea. Carlos Hyde, Damian Williams.
Carlos Hyde
looked good the last few weeks, but he's also banged up. So, all right. Boston Scott or
Damian Williams.
Yeah. That's a good line there to me. See, because
that's probably at the line. I would still probably lean Boston Scott because, I mean, I know it's like he's more of he's the Darren Sproles like for the Eagles. So you don't know. I mean, his floor could be 2 targets, 2 carries, 20 total yards. And I guess with Damian Williams, your hope is that that the Chiefs make their way down the field against Chicago, and then he runs in like a 5-yard touchdown, which is definitely within the realm of possibility. All right. But I'd probably still lean Scott.
Well, the last injury I'm going to talk about will tie into this guy, and then that would be Damian Williams or Daniel Boone's great grandson, Mike Boone.
Well, I mean, with Boone, we don't know, and that's a Monday night game.
If Cook isn't playing, would you feel comfortable right now playing Boone? Would you start Boone over a lot of the names I've given you? If Cook isn't playing.
Yeah, if I know that Cook isn't playing, and honestly, I'll take that back. I would honestly need to know that Madison is also not playing.
Okay. See, I guess in my mind, I'll have to look that up. I thought Madison was kind of going to already be ruled out, but maybe that's just something I put in my own head. So
I had already assumed that Cook is going to be ruled out, and then Madison is the one that's questionable at this point.
Well, we'll start talking. But what do you think of Boone? So if they're both out, you're starting Boone over a bunch of people, then I would assume.
Oh, yeah. I mean
over Hyde, over Peterson, over a lot of the names I've given you, you would start Boone.
Top 24 at least. I would have to assume that he'd wind up in the top 24. I mean, assuming both Madison and Cook are out, yeah, Boone has to be probably within the top 24. I mean, pretty decent matchup against the Packers. I mean, last week, he was at 12 carries, 54 yards, and 2 touchdowns or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, I mean, I think that with the way that the Vikings operate with their run-heavy tendencies, I know they're probably still sitting around 57, 58, passing rate. I think that that's probably something that you can bank on, at least from a touch share, and also, I guess, from a touchdown equity standpoint, Boone could wind up. He could probably likely wind up repeating that same stat line from last week.
Let me look here. I'm still looking up Madison and seeing if there was any reports today. No, so they didn't update him today, and maybe that's because they don't play on Monday. His update stuff will come tomorrow, I'm assuming.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So, all right. I mean, I did pick him up in the league, in our league. I picked him up because running backs where I've been, I have hung in with my wide receivers and Jameis Winston for a lot of weeks here. So that's kind of where I've been rolling. So, I mean, actually I've been Hyde and Adrian Peterson. Have been my 2 running backs. And trust me, at the beginning of the year, if I knew that was what I was going to deal with. No, I shouldn't say that. I'm sorry. I have been playing Gordon and Eckler together.
Mm-hmm.
And then Adrian Peterson or Carlos Hyde. So, but the issue now is Gordon in the doghouse. And, he didn't have a great week. Now, Eckler didn't have a big bust out week either, but he obviously was their main ball carrier. Can you trust Melvin Gordon going into this week, or was last week just a fluke?
I'd have trouble.
Pretty good matchup.
Yeah, it's a good matchup against Oakland, right? Yeah. Especially after the way that the Raiders played in their last home game in the Black Hole. And they're going to be without Josh Jacobs this weekend as well. So, we could just see that entire offense kind of in a funk. But either way, I think that, with Melvin Gordon, yeah, I think it's entirely possible that they could just make the switch to Eckler. They just want to try and see what they could. I think the narrative could be that they want to see what they have in Eckler, what his max workload is capable of this late in the season. Because I think through the first 4 games, before Gordon came back, I thought Eckler looked really good.
Yeah.
But with the way that the season's kind of played out, if they want to see what they have in terms of Eckler moving forward, they could just make the switch, make him the primary running back, see how he handles the workload of the final 2 games, and then just leave Melvin Gordon to kind of be the backup, we'll say. So it could just be a switch in that.
You're scared. 60, I've got them both in my starting lineup right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I really don't, to be honest. I'm too scared to put in Golden Tate. I'm too scared to put in John Brown. So I'm rolling with 4 running backs. In my 2 flexes, I'm going with Melvin Gordon and Eckler. And then I'm going to my flex, Peterson and Drake right at the moment. I have Amari Cooper, Parker, and Jones as my wide receivers. I don't know. I'm a little scared to play Tate or Brown. Brown's got a terrible matchup and didn't look good the last few. I think Beasley's the number one there at the moment. I don't think I can play Hopkins. Tariq Cohen to me is a little questionable, over all those other guys. So I don't know. I mean, again, I picked up Brown, and if I know Cook, and Madison is out, obviously I would stick Brown in, obviously, for Gordon. Then would you say is that?
I think that's fair. Yeah.
That's kind of what I would look at. Where again, back to what I asked earlier, who would you start over Gordon? Then where would you put Gordon? Also in the 20-ish?
Probably in the teens.
In the teens,
say...
start name, right?
Yeah.
If you're putting him in the teens, Eckler's not much higher than the teens either, right? You can't put him unless they come right out and say, "Hey, Eckler's our guy this week. Gordon's the backup."
Right. I would still probably put them like Gordon in the low teens. So we're talking like 17, 18, 19. Then probably Eckler in like the high teens, like somewhere between like 13, 14, 15, like somewhere in there.
Right. All right. It's a fun week. That's the fun of the Super Bowl. Usually your team is set. There's not a whole lot to do. But we're grinding edges at this point, right? Because we want to make sure our lineups are perfect because this is the game. So there's just no. So you're debating everybody, right? It just sucks that Golden Tate or John Brown gets you here. Now you can't really trust him the last couple of weeks.
Right. But I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, he's going to be locked up on.
Right. He's against New England. I can't.
Yeah. He'll be in the Gilly lock. He'll be locked up against Stephon Gilmore.
Golden Tate's not done terrible, but he's also not done, great.
That's stumbling, bumbling, like one catch, 50-yard touchdown.
I haven't even paid attention. Even if Sterling Shepard's out, I don't think I can trust Golden Tate right at the moment. But we do have Jones coming back, right?
Yeah. He was a full practice participant. In practice today, so it looks like, I guess, barring a setback, like he'll wind up being the starter. So that we probably saw the last of Eli Manning this past weekend.
Well, the last in a Giants uniform.
True. I mean, I would assume that he'll. I mean, if he wants to continue playing, and I would assume he would. Because I haven't heard anything in terms of like a announcer deal.
He's been overpaid.
Oh, he has been, but I haven't heard anything because like how we've heard that pretty much like Greg Olsen, he can just walk into the booth at pretty much any time that he wants to, and Jason Witten, if he wants to go back to the booth, they'll probably take him, even though like his was like an abject disaster when he was on Monday Night Football. But I haven't heard similar rumblings for Eli. Like if he wants to leave, he has like a broadcast future.
Yeah, but I don't think he needs that either. Peyton,
he doesn't need it, but I'm just saying for most players, there's just been
not most. There's only 16, 18 broadcasters, so it's not like there's a million jobs out there for them.
Right.
The Mannings are pretty well set, I think. Speaking of that, do you watch any of the Peyton's places on ESPN Plus?
I don't have ESPN Plus. From the clips that I've seen, they're really good, though.
Yeah, okay.
They're pretty insightful.
Right. I will. Somehow I'll give you a code. I'll make it to where you can, or to just be honest, it's $4.99, or you get a free month free. Sign up and watch all of them. They're all out now. I think there's one more.
Okay.
If you did the free, they are phenomenal, and you do learn things about the NFL. He's hysterical. I gotta say,
everything that I've heard about him.
Hysterical.
Yeah, everything that I've heard about. I guess his honestly, if any team could coax him back into some sort of like management or coaching role within the NFL, he would just make a king's ransom.
Yeah, but I don't think he wants to do it.
But that's the thing. I think it's his choice in order to go and do it.
I think he just watching this seems like he's having fun. I don't think.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and good for him.
Need the money. And I got to say, there's a couple of them Eli's been on, and it's the most emotional. Eli even has some sense of humor.
Yeah,
he's somewhat. Actually, the whole family, you have to watch them. There's 15 or 16 of them out now.
Okay. I'd love to check them out because, again, I just think that in terms of, I would say he has to be at least we obviously have an age gap between the two of us. I would say for my generation, and this is for the folks that were like the 80s babies, but I would say that Peyton Manning is probably like our connection to like to the older generations, because
Right.
he's probably like one of the last, probably other than Tom Brady, but like one of the last like pure like pocket passers that we'll probably see, and like in the way that he like his knowledge of the game, his understanding of the game,
because he has episodes about these things.
Yeah, it's just I think he would be one of those guys that if he wound up coaching somewhere, I would be really interested to see how that franchise.
I wouldn't. See, I think that unfortunately I've seen too many good players go into coaching, and then that.
Well, yeah, because John Elway. I mean, if you look at John Elway and the Broncos, I mean, it's just. I mean, that team's a disaster.
Yeah.
Or was it Lynch in San Francisco? That's
Michael Jordan. Just all of them. They get into coaching. It just.
Well, coaching I think is fine, but once you try and make coaches GMs and you take them out of what they know and you try and just say, well, football, right? So try and just manage football. Then I think there's a problem. I mean, because Peyton Manning's a good quarterback, I would not say that Peyton Manning would be a good GM. Well, I can't make that leap.
Now that being said, might not be a good GM, but he does know a lot about football.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But to say he can turn like an entire franchise around and turn it into like, a Super Bowl contender. I don't believe that.
I mean, if anything, get the free sample. I think it's ESPN Plus. I'm pretty sure the first month is free and you can cancel anytime. Cool. And I would just tell you it's worth, I want to say $3.99 or $4.99. It's not even now. Okay. Only because it's a big deal. Did you get Disney Plus for your children?
Of course. Well, I mean, what father would I?
Okay. But did you know, there is a subscription of Disney Plus that was only a few dollars more that included ESPN Plus.
I did not know that. Yeah. We were just interested in getting the kids movies. That's all.
Right. The kids movies
and The Mandalorian, of course.
The Mandalorian, which actually I've been enjoying. But are you paying the $6.99, $7.99, something like that?
Yeah.
I think there's like for $10 or something, you get ESPN Plus.
Interesting.
And Hulu.
Okay, since it's all Disney, yeah, that's right. That does make some sense.
The Disney, you get Hulu and you get ESPN if you go to their next tier up. Or again, just the ESPN. Sign up, get your 30 days for free, and do nothing. And even if it's 7 days free, watch. They're only 20 minutes long because they take out the commercials on there. But just hit the button. There's no commercials. They play in 20 minutes. You can watch. Obviously it's math. You can watch 3 of them in an hour, but they go pretty. Yeah, they go pretty quick, but it's just him going through the history of the NFL, and highly recommended.
All right.
So, like I said, now we're not helping anybody, but that's fine. It's our last show, Chris. It's our last show. We can talk about whatever we want. True. And because again, there's a million places you can get advice. We're here just to have fun tonight. But something came up today. So I had to go back to my first season when I actually played in 2013, but I was kind of an assistant coach. My first real season with the League of Anarchy was 2014. And I had to look back, and Chris, let me tell you my draft. I just think it's important. I had the number 2 pick. In 2014. First of all, in 2014, who do you think the number 1 pick might have been?
So that was 5 seasons ago?
Yeah.
So let's see. That would running back.
Give you a hint. In this league, it was a wide receiver.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Antonio Brown?
No. Only one wide receiver was taken in round 1, and that was the number 1 pick, and that was Calvin Johnson. I did the best thing ever at the number 2 pick, and I was a homer. I took Giovanni Bernard.
That was his first season?
That was Hill's. No, that was Hill's rookie season. And Giovanni Bernard had a good season before.
That's right. Yeah.
Maybe they would bring Hill in and not do anything with him. And so my number 1 pick was a disaster.
Yeah.
Right off the get-go. This is a 2 quarterback league. And then after that, it was Peyton Manning, Marshawn Lynch, Jamal Charles, Adrian Peterson, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, Jimmy Graham, LaShawn McCoy. So it's amazing 5 years ago that there's multiple people on that list that are, and that's why I bring it up. there's 5 people on that list that are decisions you have to make 5 years later. You know, you're playing Drew Brees, but Adrian Peterson is in the mix. Aaron Rodgers is in the mix, who's doing terrible. Jimmy Graham is playing, and Sean McCoy. So those are players that are still playing today. And 5 years ago, they were the number 1 draft pick.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun seeing like how some of those players that we drafted, I mean, probably, like 4 or 5 years ago, they're still in the league. I mean, not doing as much. I mean,
obviously the best on that list it would be, Drew Brees. You have Drew Brees.
Yeah, easily. But I mean, we're quarterback. We can go in the whole debate, but I mean, you have quarterbacks. That's different.
So, it's hard to believe Jimmy Graham was taken before, 5 years ago. Jimmy Graham was taken.
Well, that was New Orleans Jimmy Graham. I mean, that was New Orleans Jimmy Graham.
Oh, no, that was his first week it was his first season in Seattle.
Oh, that was Seattle before he tore his patellar tendon.
First week. Right, which was on a touchdown pass.
Mm-hmm.
Round 2. Actually, I ended up getting a good player here, but I don't pick obviously to the end of that round. But the first round 2 was Matt Forte. Man, he was awesome with the Bears, wasn't he?
Yeah, I'm debating on, and I've seen the debates already as to whether or not he'll wind up in the Hall of Fame.
I don't think he's Hall of Famer.
I think he's in the Hall of Very Good.
Yeah, there you go.
Not the Hall of Fame.
Well, then Cam Newton, which again, remember, it's a 2 quarterback league.
Okay.
Man, what a great player 5 years ago. Arian Foster.
Love Pheno, man.
I mean, he was phenomenal. Eddie Lacy, AJ Green, Brandon Marshall, Matthew Stafford, Des Bryant.
Bears?
Huh?
2 Bears?
2 Bears.
You said Matt Forte and Brandon Marshall.
No, Brandon Marshall that year is the New York Giants. Or
he was in the Giants. Or the Jets. Okay, yeah.
But then I come back and my great pick of Giovanni Bernard, and then I come back with Demaryius Thomas, who did get me over 400 points that year. So
was that the Peyton Manning record year?
Yeah. So that wasn't a bad pick.
Yeah, him, Decker. Who was the third wide? Sanders.
Cam Newton still playing. Matthew Stafford obviously not playing, and then Andrew Luck was the last pick there. So round 2, hardly anyone's left.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have round 3: Doug Martin, Alfred Morris, Rob Gronkowski, Andre Johnson, Nick Foles for St. Louis. He was playing with St. Louis that year. DeMarco Murray, Julio Jones, Jordy Nelson, Zach Stacy. What a failure there with St. Louis.
Yeah.
Alshon Jeffrey. Obviously another person still playing. So it's just amazing. I just had fun. Round 4, Antonio Brown wasn't taken until round 4. Colin Kaepernick was taken. Lev Bell in that round. Randall Cobb, Russell Wilson, Larry Fitzgerald. What a fun thing. I just didn't realize this stuff was even in here to go and see how we drafted back in 2014. It's just fun to look at. And that was my first year in the League of Anarchy.
Yeah.
And I was still kind of learning, and went 5-8, was number 3 in points, but just missed the playoffs. Damn it. In my first year. And I've been in the playoffs ever since. But, makes it fun. Anything else? This is, like I said, probably not going to go, we only got 10 minutes anyway, but anything else news-wise? Anything we need to worry about this week?
The Dak news is pretty concerning.
Okay, so you know what? I did have him highlighted. But what I highlighted said he's playing. So is he gonna play? But we have to watch him. I mean, if you have,
I would say, I mean, an AC joint sprain, but also the quote that I got that I retweeted earlier, and Evan Silva actually wound up retweeting my retweet, was from one of the beat writers saying that the quote from Amari Cooper was that in the huddle after he sustained that injury, Dak told them that even like he didn't care what the read was on any of the RPO calls, that he was always going to opt to let Zeke run the ball because he was not going to be able to make that throw to Michael Gallup. So if he wasn't even able to throw during that game, after he sustained the injury or like hit the deep ball, then and Amari Cooper has been playing through whatever injury he's been playing through. I mean, he's popped up like here and there for some decent games, but it's clear he's playing through something. I really don't want. I mean, and I know it's the Eagles secondary that made Dwayne Haskins look like he was back at Ohio State, but still, I mean, it's hard to trust a quarterback that can't throw. I mean, I don't know how you're supposed to trust a quarterback that can't throw the deep ball anymore.
Yeah, I know. I mean, only because, like I said, I don't have anywhere in the League of Anarchy, though he is on one of the Super Bowl teams. Unfortunately, the guy who made it barely has Prescott and Cook on his Super Bowl team.
Ouch.
He also has Chark and Fuller. So
he just got the all injury team.
Yeah, but made it to the Super Bowl.
Hey, Howard, I mean, doesn't matter how you got there as long as you got there.
Well, he has Watson and Hopkins. That hasn't hurt him.
But that'll do it.
So, and Waller, Eckler. But, this is a tough week with quarterbacks then if you have to.
Yeah, that's really concerning to me. I would go ahead and check. Actually, let me go ahead and look at if they have any, if there's been any line movement like so far. I don't think there has been.
You do your article on streaming quarterbacks. In our league, quarterbacks you could pick up and play instead of Dak Prescott this week would be Daniel Jones, Tom Brady, Will Grier, Andy Dalton, Jared Goff, Dwayne Haskins, Derek Carr, and Hodges, because I think now Hodges has been named the starter, right?
Yeah, they're still gonna be playing.
So,
yeah.
Out of that list, is there any of them? If Dak is starting, would you start any of those over a starting Dak? Obviously, if he's not starting, the best thing would be to know he's not starting. The worst thing would be know he's starting but not going to throw the ball or could come out early. So
right, and I think that's
the top tier is going to be Jones, Brady, Goff. I guess I don't know who are you streaming. Goff doesn't have that great a matchup though. He's San Francisco, so I would take him out.
Right. Brady, I don't like. I mean, because he's playing against Buffalo. The last time he played against Buffalo, the Patriots scored 16
Washington
points.
at Washington.
Jones, I like.
He's going to have all of his weapons.
Yep. Along with his rushing ability, assuming he's a full go.
Haskins has the Giants. Their defense hasn't been great. Obviously, he's proven in 1 week that if he has an offense or defense that's not tight, he's going to he'll find some people. And playing against the Giants, who just, released one of their better cornerbacks. If Dak is starting, I don't think I could start Haskins over. I think that's kind of the it's frustrating part. Are they really going to let him play if he can't throw the ball in a must-win game? But their backup is Cooper Rush, and Cooper Rush hasn't thrown a pass, I think, since like 2017. So it's not the fact that they wouldn't put him out there if he couldn't play. It's back to almost a quarterback decoy. They'd rather have Dak in there where you don't. Right. They're setting themselves back even farther by putting Cooper Rush in. Man, you hate to have that decision come Super Bowl week. Just kind of sucks. Yeah, man. That's difficult. But I would assume that for most folks, they might have had like a separate option, like on their kind of sitting on their bench because in our league, you're only allowed to, in the League of Anarchy, you can only roster 2 quarterbacks. Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. So if you had Dak, you likely had somebody else. It's a 2 quarterback league. Oh, I didn't know that. He has Deshaun Watson and Dak Prescott. We're not allowed to roster more than 2 quarterbacks. He would have to drop Dak and pick up Jones or somebody else, meaning the names I named are all that's out there. So I don't know. That's a tough decision. Right. I think that is all the injuries I had highlighted, which to me is what's making this Super Bowl harder than other ones. I don't remember this far late in the season. Usually the big injuries are over with. The guys are just out. We don't have those decisions. But this year it seems like we have those decisions where last year the decision was, is that team going to rest this guy? Right now, the way the playoffs are, there's really no team resting anybody, because all of the number ones and home fields are still up for grabs. And, so. If that's my thing, the only time I would see people start resting players would be in week 17. But even still, like in week 15, if the Atlanta Falcons can beat the San Francisco 49ers,
then I have just like no. I guess I don't have much of a concern about teams resting any of their players like that far out.
Right.
I don't even think for week 16 they're going to be resting players.
Well,
They'll probably be week 17.
Real football wise, what's the matchup you're looking forward to the most this week?
This weekend, I would probably say that I'm looking forward to trying to get some tape out on Will Grier. I know it's against the Colts, but I really want to try and understand. And I was talking to the rest of the 4for4 crew last night in Slack. This whole thing around Will Grier and them not starting him, letting Kyle Allen go out and just kind of be like Jameis Winston bad in some of his games where he's just thrown like multiple picks or like had a bunch of turnovers.
He actually had a month where he was a decent quarterback. He just fell off
4 weeks, but then now they've lost 6 straight. They fired Ron Rivera. It's just I don't understand.
They fired what's his name this morning too. Or rumor. Who's the general manager /
That was Tom Coughlin?
Yeah,
that's for the Jags.
Yeah. Oh, that is the Jags.
Yeah, not the
Panthers. I just read that somewhere that he's being let go.
Yeah, he got fired.
Yeah.
But for the Panthers, it's been kind of bizarre that like as soon as they were eliminated from the playoffs, I believe in like week 12. It was week 12 or week 13 when they were officially eliminated from the playoffs. I think it was after they played the Falcons.
And I thought the same thing. I thought they'd start playing Grier at that point.
Yeah, and they still haven't. And it's kind of taken like 4 more turnovers from Kyle Allen in order for them to do this.
Guys in practice, these coaches aren't idiots. If the guy is struggling in practice, he's going to struggle in a game.
But I've never heard that. I've never heard anything about like Will Grier is behind. Will Grier is.
Yeah, but some coaches don't throw out the negative stuff.
But not even from beat writers. I'm saying beat writers, I would think they would have at least some inkling as to why a 3rd round pick is not starting over.
The Bengals proved their 4th round pick wasn't worth playing either, though.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying 3rd round. Okay.
But
at least Ryan Finley played.
Well, that's true. Right.
Will Grier,
right.
He hasn't seen the light of day since preseason. So that's why I'm most intrigued by this weekend and by what he'll do. Because
I wouldn't.
Oh no, you can't play him. Right. This is more for NFL than anything else. Because if he comes out and he's actually functional,
what about a keeper league? Would you pick him if you had somebody on your bench that you wouldn't keep? Is that the kind of guy you might throw on your bench and go, "Hey, FE"?
No, because I still think Cam Newton will still be the quarterback there next year.
You sure? With the
I believe so.
Now I question it more now because of the foot surgery just now happening.
With the Frank, he could still be back in time in order to play next year.
I don't know. I'm 50-50 if Cam Newton's playing again on the Panthers. But
I still think he is because if the first notion was that Kyle Allen could be the future of the Panthers, and then now after 2 games with Will Grier, they think he's going to be the future of the Panthers,
right?
Then just sell the whole team at that point.
Okay, right. Sell them all.
Just sell the whole team at that point. If you think either one of those 2 guys is going to lead the Panthers like forward into the future, then just sell the whole team. Right. They're going to let like Cam Newton walk and all the connections for Cam Newton to Chicago or whatever. I just sell the whole team.
Right. Well, obviously the big game for me is Saturday at 4:30. I want to watch the Bills Patriots. I want to see if the Bills can take charge. The Patriots for 15 years haven't had anybody knock them off that little mountain of theirs.
And now they got a chance.
Well, but here in my mind, though, it's more the Patriots struggling than the Bills are playing great because the Bills to me are playing good enough to win. I still don't think they're great yet. That's why I think the game could be good, could be fun. And then obviously, the other one is the Cowboys-Eagles. To me, that's the first playoff game. That's a playoff game a week earlier than not. The winner pretty much. If Cowboys win, they lock it. It's locked. If Eagles win, they have a pretty good hold on it. Meaning, so I think that's the 2 I'm looking at the most. The Bengals Dolphins matchup. That's not going to be anything. The Bengals pretty much now have locked up the Heisman Trophy winner. I think I'm not happy about it, but we'll see.
Sure.
All right, Chris. Anything else exciting? Anything else we need to know? And or where can people find your stuff if not?
I think that's about it. I guess news wise. So I have taking it back. I have 3 more articles left for the season. I have my weather report that will drop on Friday of this week. We actually are doing a week 17 streamers column over on 4for4. This one will be like half the length of like my previous ones. It's just like, here, start these guys. Good luck. I don't know why you're playing week 17.
Yeah, amen. I did it one year. Humbug. I did it 1 year and said I will never do that again.
Yeah, it's just terrible. And then I do have a weather report for week 17 that will be out next Friday because it is part of the DFS content that Number Fire runs. After that, I'm done for the season. That is it. I mean, I've got off-season projects and all that, but after next Friday, you'll probably never ever hear from me again. I'm like taking a break from Twitter. I'm getting off this because I want to get out of my office for once.
I don't blame you. Don't blame you at all.
Other than that, no, I'm just playing because like as soon as I'm done with that, then it's like we're getting into rookie evaluation, dynasty seasons ramping up, all that good stuff. So you can still find me on Twitter at Chris Allen FFWX. All of my my writing and stuff for 4for4 Number Fire, that'll be done by the end of next week. But like I just said, my dynasty work at the Dynasty Owners Manual podcast with my co-host Adam Wilde, all that stuff will be ramping up. And also doing work for DLF, Dynasty League Football, Ryan McDowell, Ken Moody, all of those guys. Like I'll be doing work for them, video content and all that over the next during the off season. So you can find me over there.
All right. And I don't know what we're doing yet. I know we usually do something every week, but obviously we're going to be off the next 2 because of the holidays. And we'll announce or decide what we're going to do or come back. I would say at a minimum, we'll do a show, for the playoffs and the Super Bowl.
Yeah, just a recap. I mean, and talk about the games and all that. I'd be more than happy to. I love talking football.
And all that, because me and you even talk. We want to revamp the show for next year. I think we're going to come back totally a little bit, and me and you, but again, we want to get more involved with your stuff and your writing and what you're doing. And
cool.
We're going to work on revamping the whole thing, but it's been it's been a fun fantasy season, gone quick. I'm glad I'm in a couple of Super Bowls, at least have one more week of watching all the games.
Yeah.
Now, I'll watch them the next week too, even though there's but then you start watching differently. When it's not fantasy, now you're watching because you want to watch that game, not that player. Yeah. You want to see who wins that game for playoffs and all that. So
absolutely,
I wish the little brown sock wearing box delivery boy rookie,
I hope he wins,
driver Dylan. I'm sure he's out there listening, or he listens in his truck the next day. So
okay,
when
Dylan, whenever you listen to this, man, all my energy I'm sending towards you, man. You beat this curmudgeon.
I don't like that you're rooting against me.
I told you I was going to do that in the thread on Twitter, man. I told you I was going to be rooting against you.
The belt I picked up, or picked out is going to be awesome with my name engraved on it. I'm gonna hang it up behind me every time we have.
No, you're going to be insufferable.
You have your little ribbon things back there. I'm going to have the big gold belt that I'm going to win because I'm the Super Bowl champion of the first. Meaning my name will be on the belt from the get-go because I will be the winner of the first season of the, the Sportscrew Radio Fantasy Football League. And it is a keeper league. Little tip right now, if you're not in the Super Bowl and you have people you're not keeping on your bench, look at your waiver wire. Look for keepers. Look for little tidbits out there.
You can do that, yeah.
Look for some strange rookies that didn't play much this year at all, but were drafted high, that might be a keeper next year. No, there's no reason to not put those kind of people on your bench.
Save them.
Instead of the waiver wire. And then next year you have to draft if something crazy happens. And now you have to draft some guy in the 8th round that you could have picked up and thrown on your waivers on the last week.
Right.
So take advantage of that. So
do it.
All right, Chris, will you have a happy New Year and Merry Christmas. That's backwards though, right? Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. You got kids, so you'll have fun. My kids are older now. We're just, gonna, we don't even have to get up early anymore. We get to sleep in during Christmas. So now your kids aren't listening. What's the big toy of the year? What's the big, what do kids want this year? What's the toy?
Mine want video games.
That's it.
Or clothes or Yeah.
So there's no, and I'm aging myself. There's no Teddy Ruxpin. There's no,
Not that I've heard of.
there's no pie in the face game or whatever that was.
No.
4 years ago.
No.
There's no. What was the little digital pet thing? Remember that? Were you in?
Oh, I had one of those.
That's your age group, huh? Where you had the little keychain.
Tamagotchi.
You had to feed.
Yeah, Tamagotchi.
Yeah, you had to feed your dog every so many hours, or
Yeah.
yeah, I remember that was a popular toy for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Eddie Ruxpin, Beanie Babies, those were
Yeah.
Cabbage Patch Kids. That was a big thing. I'm just saying.
Are we talking about Cabbage Patch? Man, let's get off the show.
All right, Chris, say goodnight.
Good night.
Well, maybe now say goodnight. Good night.
Good night.
This has been Just a Fantasy Fan Podcast. And to keep your fantasies going, follow us at justafantasyfan.com. Say good night. Good night.